Senator Blunt Rochester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses. I really welcome this hearing and the opportunity for serious, sustained engagement in digital asset market structure. This is enormously complex and could fundamentally reshape the bones of our economy. We've already seen what happens when digital finance grows without guardrails. The collapse of FTX, Terra Luna, and Celsius wiped out billions in consumer savings and exposed glaring regulatory gaps. When regulation lags innovation, real people get hurt. At a time of rising prices and growing wealth inequality, I'm sure that we can all agree that the last thing we need is to rush or have a poorly designed market structure bill. And at the same time, I strongly believe in innovation. That's why I joined Senators Moreno and he to introduce the Bipartisan Deploying American Blockchains Act. And I support a bipartisan, thoughtful, transparent, and inclusive process, especially for legislation that could shape the future of U.S. capital markets. My first question is for you, Mr. Painter. What are the risks if Congress moves forward too quickly in legislating without broad input and clear understanding of market consequences? And how do we ensure that this process produces a bipartisan framework that can stand the test of time?
The risk is that we repeat the experience of regulating the banks in the 1920s and the depression that followed, 10 years of depression. The risk is that we repeat what happened in 2008 when campaign contributions poured into Congress from the securities-based swap industry, elsewhere in the financial services industry, and we had decades of deregulation. The economy collapsed. Millions of American families losing their homes, people unemployed. We've been through this again and again. And this Congress needs to get it right this time and carefully read this bill and listen to witnesses, including the witnesses who might not disagree. And instead of the personal attacks that I've experienced today, some dignity from this Senate, care in drafting this bill and thinking about the American people you represent. We do not want another economic collapse caused by deregulation of the financial services sector. And I want to ask you all, do you understand the bill? Have you listened to all sides? And are you willing to allow the regulators to use their expertise to watch what's going on in this sector, as Chairman Massad has suggested that you should? Please, we don't want to go through those experiences again.
Thank you, Mr. Painter. You show why this is so vital that we get this right, because it will touch all of us. Mr. Massad, some proposals would let crypto companies decide for themselves which rules apply and which regulator they'd answer to. And that sounds a lot like the businesses picking their own cop on the beat, so to speak. How should Congress design a system that applies the rules fairly and earns the public's trust?
Well, I think Congress should think in terms of principles, not trying to write detailed rules, because I think those can quickly become obsolete. I think number two, Congress does need to fill the gap in regulation that we've talked about with respect to the use of this technology for things that aren't securities. But, you know, to your point about the problems here, I mean, the problem with a lot of the proposals is that they try to write detailed rules that I don't think are going to provide the clarity, and I think will provide a lot of opportunities for simply evasion of their intent. I respect the goals. The goal is clarity. We all want that. But I think you've got to be very careful about how you achieve that.
Some people talk about regulatory standards for centralized systems, that they're inappropriate for crypto because it's inherently decentralized. But many of these protocols are run by centralized teams that control governance, the incentives, and even the code. So how should Congress decide when a so-called decentralized protocol acts more like a centralized financial intermediary and regulated as such?
I think the principle Congress should have is just because it's decentralized doesn't mean it's free of regulation. Regulation may be different, but for example, if we had a decentralized protocol that became the primary market for trading Treasury securities, We would not say, oh, because it's a decentralized protocol, we don't need to worry about regulation. So I think we may need different rules, but we still need rules.
Thank you so much. I yield back.